All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Health Detective Podcast by Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. My name is Evan Transu, aka Detective Ev, and I will be your host for today's show, episode number 340 of the Health Detective Podcast. And man, I was saying this morning because we did Lunch and Learn with Lucy. It feels good to be back on the podcast. The whole month, pretty much, we've been doing summer open house, and the audio side of our podcast has been going still, of course, because we have the backlogs, but it feels good to start getting back into recording mode with you guys here. Summer open house has been fun, though. If you're catching this anytime remotely close to the end of June, you can still catch some events. It's at fdntraining.com/summer. Then it's a completely free thing, so you can catch events with us every single day. And then I just want to shout out our friends at North Star Grounding. I have a link below if you're listening to this on audio. Of course, we'll have this in the show notes. But North Star Grounding, these guys were on the podcast recently, John Hegarty, and he had the story of how he helped his brother with cancer. He literally left his finance job. These guys were in their 20s, left his finance job just to help his brother, which I thought was freaking awesome. And it's just cool to have other 20-something-year-old guys in the space. That's not a huge common thing. So I thought that was amazing. And what they did is they created these grounding products so that you can ground while you sleep. So you have sheets and pillowcases and stuff. So he was nice enough to send one to me for free. I said, I will never hype something up just because you sent it for free, but I will give my real data and real analysis. Within 2 days of using his grounding sheet while sleeping, my readiness score on my Aura ring went up the highest it had been in almost a month and a half, 2 months, in only 2 days. So I thought that was great, and I felt a lot less sore. It's certainly not a miracle cure for anything, I don't think personally, but I looked at it as this. I admittedly am not someone who lives near the beach, like our guest today, or does anything where I should be putting my feet in the ground more, but there's a bunch of ticks here where I live in Pennsylvania, so I'm always worried about Lyme disease. So I was probably grounding on average maybe 10 minutes a week, full transparency, before this. And now it's wow, I'm grounding 8 hours a day. I can't even imagine the cumulative effect there. So northstargrounding.com, use code HDP15 at checkout for 15% off. And that funds their nonprofit, and their nonprofit allows cancer patients who have overcome their cancers naturally to create personalized videos for your friends or family members, so that they can hear a personal testimony from someone for $0. You don't have to pay anything. So by funding this, getting a grounding sheet, you can also help these cancer patients get to hear these stories. I'm what do you guys the perfect business model? This is amazing. So check those guys out. I'm going to read our guest bios today, and then we will get right into this here. And this is going to be a business talk. So you guys are more than welcome to ask some questions. We will prioritize them more at the end because I got plenty to ask my guest today. So Nicole Kimmel, PhD, is the president of AANWC, vice president of AANWP, board certification and accreditation, and admissions director for GEHA, which is the Guardian. You got to help me with that one, Nicole.
Sure, Ecclesiastical.
Yeah, I thought I would have that. That's
sure.
Listen, guys, you don't need to be smart to do the podcast, okay?
I know that's a big word.
Association. She and her husband own and operate a natural health center in Sarasota, Florida called Thriveology. Stacy is a traditional naturopath, and Nicole is the developer / owner of Practactics.com, a practitioner wellness business ecosystem. So welcome to the show, my friend, and thank you for being here.
So much. Thank you, Evan, for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this today. And so I just I wanted to ask before anything else, because normally we would start with people's health issues and stuff like that. So we're going to skip that today. I'll ask a similar question though. How did you get started in this world of business? Because so many people get into the health space, their heart's in the right place, and they don't have the business side. So how'd you start with that?
Absolutely. It's a good question. It actually did kind of start with health. So my husband, Stacy, he was actually my personal fitness trainer. For 7 years, we were best of friends. So I went to him for my health, and he was brilliant. So we became best of friends. And then one day he told me he loved me. I left my life. We became a couple. We both went back to school at 40 and got our PhDs because one of the things we loved doing was helping people. We both did that already in our current lives and positions. And so we went back to school, got our PhDs, and opened Thriveology in Missouri in 2014. Well, quickly, I could see that there were not a lot of resources for people like us outside of state and federal regulation, anything that related to running, owning, operating any kind of clinic or offering any kind of wellness services. So as a business coach and having been in business most of my adult life, it just made sense to me to start kind of putting those things together. How can we run this quote business? Because we wanted to operate it as a business. So I did it for us in Missouri. Then we moved to Florida in 2017, sold everything, started over, never been here in our entire life, just decided we wanted to be by the beach. So we started over and basically put our name on a sign, went to the Sarasota Chamber of Commerce and said, hi, we're here. And it gave us even more of an idea that we needed to start with these business resources in Florida and then provide them to other people, because we didn't know anybody. We had both been rooted in Missouri forever. I'd lived there 50 years, so I knew everyone. So it was kind of an easier sell, if you will, in Missouri. But in Florida, we didn't know anybody. So we basically utilized those same exact resources that we made or put together in Missouri. And then I started then really launching some much bigger resources for safety, credibility, legality, everything that anyone would need to run a really well-run business in Sarasota, trying to find my people. You know, where are my people here? I didn't know where the people were. So it all kind of started with a directory that I started called Holistic Health Link, just so that I could find the people that were our tribe. And then from there, it just took off. I built a license and then I built board cert. So each one of those resources just kind of compounded on top of another gap in the market that then I ended up filling.
Well, you look like Florida's working for you, because
Thank
I feel like I'm at my tannest of the year and you still are 10 shades darker. So Florida's
Thank
definitely
you
going
very
well.
much. I'm in the sun every day. And speaking of grounding, it's so true. We live a mile from Siesta Key. It's one of two beaches in the world that the entire beach is made of quartz. So it is grounding times a million. So I'm all about it.
So cool. Let's talk more about this license with GEHA, which I will keep as an acronym since apparently I can't even pronounce the words. So I'd love to know more about that license and what that is.
Sure. So we call it GEHA, but basically because we didn't really want to call it GEHA, that sounded a little bit odd. So we call it GEHA, Guardian Ecclesiastical Holistic Association. And it's basically giving people that do not have state accredited education a legal scope of practice. Now, if you come from any school, you're going to have an ethical scope. But as far as offering your wellness services with legal permission, you really don't have that. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that you're more at risk if you're out servicing people and suggesting supplements and running labs or doing any of those things that you can absolutely do. It's just, why not protect yourself at the highest level? And because GEHA gives you a scope of practice in all 50 states, you can work virtually. So when you think about 50 states, scope of practice, think of the US Constitution. That's what we're governed by. The First and 14th Amendment, the ability to assemble and the ability to choose your health care. And because of that governance, we're able to have people sign our life care agreement. When they sign our life care agreement, we're basically taking them out of the public domain, bringing them to the private association. They're waiving their HIPAA rights. They're also understanding at the highest level of legality that you're not treating, diagnosing, curing, or prescribing. You're strictly suggesting. So we have a very specific legal scope, but we also have a specific code of operations in which we can practice in, as well as our clients signing that agreement so that they fully understand what it is that you do with legal permission.
Okay, that sounds very important. So I'm excited to learn more about this. We'll kind of break everything down and then I might go back to that if that's okay.
Sure.
So for the sake of credibility, and this comes up all the time because, well, I used to do course enrollment for FDN. And so many people would call and be like, well, do I get this credential or do I get this or do I get that? And while I do think fundamentally, personally, the most important thing is to understand business skills, because, you know, no certification and no letters are necessarily going to flood people through your door. Even if you're something very well known, like a dentist or MD, you're still going to have to either go to another practice that's already established or learn the business side. I don't think there's any denying that there's something inherently cool about someone that has letters behind their name. There's something that's attractive about that and automatically makes us put them as an authority. So with the other acronyms we talked about already, with AANWP and AANWC, I'd like to break those down and then talk about what board certification options those offer for practitioners.
Sure. Really great question and comments. So from the GEHA licenses, I lectured about that. It's been around almost 8 years now. And I lectured about it a lot because it was so very new. Now, the ecclesiastical law, it's been around for 30, 40 years. So the National Center of Law and Liberty is the organization that we use. So when you become a GEHA licensed practitioner, you have access to them. They are in this space of law. you will hardly find any attorneys in this space of law. And they might go and learn it. You're going to pay a lot of money for them to go and learn it. But because you're a GEHA licensed practitioner, you have access to the National Center of Law and Liberty, who protects these exact laws that we're talking about. So that's a really important part of that. So as I lectured about that, the question kept coming up about board certification. Well, I didn't really know much about that, because that's not, the boards are really not a part of anything other than medicine. You've heard that in medicine your whole life, but you don't really think of it outside of medicine. But it's just as important. So I had so many questions about board certification. So I went on a hunt, because again, I'm filling gaps. I want to make sure that everybody's covered everywhere that they possibly can be for the highest level of credibility, legality, and safety. So I went on a hunt and I found a couple board certification organizations, some that I'd heard a lot about. A lot of people mentioned the names. And I just called them and I said, hi, I'd like to know more about what you do, and I'd like to know who your board is. Well, I found out that the two that were the highest recommendations didn't have a board. And I thought it was odd, but I didn't really know much about it. But it just felt odd to me that these board certification organizations either didn't have a board or they would not disclose the board. So I, being very, very careful about my referrals and taking them very seriously, decided I'm not feeling real comfortable about referring a board certification organization out if they don't have a board. So I created my own. So my husband and I called our collective friends, colleagues, contacts, and said, this is what we'd like to do. And would you be willing to be part of our supports and be in, an advisory board position and support what we're doing in terms of board certification? So to separate the two, GEHA is the license. That's the action. That gives you the protection legally. That gives you your scope of practice legally. Board certification, we're a private organization. It's strictly voluntary, but it's all about credibility. So yes, you can put the name LEHP was what we use for GEHA. So if you become a GEHA licensed practitioner, you'll have the acronym LEHP, Licensed Ecclesiastical Holistic Practitioner. If you become board certified with one of our organizations, AANWP, P standing for practitioner, AANWC, C standing for coach, then you will have a very specific acronym for that based on the many titles that we recommend and that we have on our application. So together, that combination, when you think about having really high level education, okay, now you know what you're doing, you've got your education, but are you going to run a business? Or are you just going to have some fun with it? Because if you're going to run a business, you need to consider all the things to run a business, just like you would if you were opening a store in the mall. So part of that would be you need a license. You need something that gives you your scope. You need insurance to cover that license, which if you're a GEHA practitioner, we have already pre-negotiated that for you. And you've got the ability to apply for a liability policy. You're going to need some kind of credibility from a third party. Again, not necessary, but just recommended so that you can actually open up your practice as a business. So we provide those. Those are our three most recommended credentials. So AANWP, back to board cert, American Association of Natural Wellness Practitioners, American Association of Natural Wellness Coaches. And Reed Davis, as you all know, he's part of our advisory board. So he's helped us so much in supporting what we're doing. He's also a GEHA practitioner and believes in what we're doing. So we so appreciate him for all of his support and all that he does from his education standpoint, but then also taking it a step further and bringing people in like myself to share post-education, post-graduation. What can you do with this amazing education that's going to give you a little bit of credibility, a little bit of legality, so that you can actually show up in a space and feel really comfortable promoting your services?
I appreciate you shouting out Reed in that way, because we were actually talking about this on our summer open house events recently. Like, Reed has this legal background. Most people don't even know that until they get into the course. And there are so many people like you and like Reed, and God bless you guys, because you're fighting out there for very technical stuff. Not many people want to go spend the time to learn this. I'm a nerdy person. I'm a freedom fighter. And admittedly, it's one of those things that's like hard to learn, right? You sit there and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
It just kind of drags on. So we need people like you guys that are doing this. So this is the behind the scenes stuff of FDN and its kind of leadership that people just don't get to see. And it's like, you'll have people coming on and be like, well, what if the labs disappear? What if we can't do this? I'm like, guys, if we can't do that stuff, you got bigger problems to worry about, because we got a team that fights for this stuff to make sure that we can do what we should be able to do. We're not trying to do something ridiculous. I always make a joke, Nicole. I'm like, I think one of the ways that I could at least start to bridge the mass political divide in this country is by saying, like, I think New York State, we can get the test in as FDNs, but it's very hard to get certain stool tests in. I'm like, all right, left and right, I don't care what side you're on. Can we all agree that the state should not be able to tell me that I am not allowed to, in the comfort of my home, poop in a box and send it
Totally.
out for testing. Can
Yep.
we all agree on that at least? And I think
Yep.
that's how we can start to bridge the political divide, because you'd
So
think
agree.
anyone would think that's ridiculous.
Well, and in addition, a lot of people don't even know this. Like,
Mhm.
it's not like they know it and they're like, nah, I don't want to do it, or
Sure.
I'm not really interested. The majority of the people I talk to are completely misinformed. I have calls all the time about, now, when can I start accepting insurance and how can I do that? Well, you can't, because you're not a medical state licensed
Mhm.
practitioner. And why do you want to? And why is this a big deal? And why are you pretending to be a doctor when you're not? Let's be really happy in the lanes that we're in. Let's show up and be proud of what we're doing in our lanes, doing what we do really, really well. So there's so much misinformation about what people can do with their education. But in addition, there's not even misinformation. It's they don't even know to know this. They don't even
Yeah.
know it's available to them. So if they don't know it's available, how in the world can they even utilize it? That's what I want to do, is make sure that people know that these credentials and designations and opportunities are there for them, so that they can feel comfortable, because we all know where fear resonates on a frequency scale. And
Mhm.
if you're going in to run a practice and you've learned in your ethical scope that, oh my gosh, don't say this, and if you say this, you're going to jail, and if you do this, but if you know that there's a way that you can do all of this legally, and you can just learn that there are options for you to do that, then that removes the fear, and you can be your best self when you're offering your services.
Yeah, that, and it's the best way to do it. We have, man, in my generation, and I don't mean it in a political sense. I think we should all agree with this. And I think actually fundamentally we do at the core, whether or not we acknowledge it. It's like we've been given really unique privileges in this country. And people will,
Absolutely.
like, listen, I'm going to Europe for a couple months this summer. I'm going to live cheaper. I'm going to have higher quality food. All that's true, right? And I'm probably going to be safer actually where I'm living. I admit all that. But there are certain things here, as imperfect as the country might be in many senses, that, man, people died for that. And they didn't die because they were bored, right? They died because it
Absolutely.
actually matters. And so
Yes.
I'm just, again, I can't express how much I appreciate people like you. I know it seems like, oh, guys, it's just lab testing. Why are we being almost patriotic about it? It's like, well, there's certain rights that allow us to do the things that we do here. And there's a reason that, I mean, the United States is the only place I know, and still 4 states have stopped this. The United States is one of the only places I know of that I can go right now onto like ultralabtest.com and I can
Yep.
order any blood work I
That's
want if I
right.
want to pay out of pocket. You can't, how asinine that I could be in another country, a first world country that's doing well,
Yep.
and I cannot voluntarily say that I want to pay money out of my pocket that I earned to get blood work done.
Yep. For yourself. Yep.
Again, that's crazy to me. So I have some more questions, but I also just want to spend a little more time on this in the sense that I'm assuming the audience is wondering. We got 20 live. So if you guys do have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. I'll do them at the end. I'm wondering here, what is the process then to get involved with these board certifications and licensure?
Yeah. So I always say start with a license. I don't own licensure. This is a 501c3. I built it and I'm the admissions director for it. I actually own board certification, but I am saying from a legality standpoint, get your license, because even though board certification gives you credibility, which is enormous, it still doesn't protect your services. So get your license first. Go to G Association. It's GEH association.org and just check it out. Just look at it and read through it and see what's available to you. It's a 6-step application process. It's very slicked out. We've had it for almost 8 years now. It's very, very easy. You'll start with joining. You'll fill out an application. You'll do a little quick 20-question quiz. We send it to a background check. Then we look at your answers on your application to kind of just assess our risk and liability with you. There are 4 different ranging fees, anywhere from about $65 to $85 a month. We assign your fees. You pay monthly. You get all the training sent to you in an email, along with the information you need to go and look at your insurance and see what's available to you for insurance. So a lot of people ask me, well, why is this a monthly fee? Well, it's a monthly fee because we retain attorneys monthly as well. So we're looking at it for you from a standpoint of legality. So if you're thinking that $65 or $85 is a lot of money to pay for you to legally offer your services, that's one client. That's probably a half of a client when you really think about it. And now you can work without fear. And now you have a very specific legal scope of practice. So no one has to question it, not even from the entrance strategy. You know, it's a license. You can say you're licensed from the entrance strategy, from the exit strategy. If someone were to ever come up and, you know, maybe they're sending a letter to the health department, or maybe you've been subpoenaed to submit some records for someone that isn't even, it's not even about you. They just want to see your records. Now you have the NCLL that you call and they take care of all of that for you. So it just makes it a lot easier for you to know that this is already taken care of. Now, AANWP and AANWC, those are practitioner and coach board certifications. The cool thing about FDN is they're the only school that we've provided an exclusive title. So you can become a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner or coach, and only FDNs have the ability to apply for those specific titles on either of our applications. And those are the non-exam titles. So if you do want to have board certification and you don't want to sit for an exam, we have that for you. If you want to sit for exam as a coach, we have that for you. To me, going through FDN's education, there's really no reason to sit for an exam. You might as well just let us authenticate your education as a third party, which means all you do is upload your FDN certificate. You choose the title that aligns with that certificate. We approve you, you pay, and you get your beautiful certificate. In addition, one of the things that I also noticed when I called these other board certification organizations was, what are your benefits? Why do I join other than getting a piece of paper? I wanted to provide something more than a beautiful piece of paper, which we do have a beautiful certificate, I will have to say, compared to some of the others. And I'm big into design and packaging. I think that matters. I think it matters on a level of showing up, all of your space, all of your marketing materials, everything should be very, very beautiful. But the thing about that is we have member benefits. So we've been pulling together benefits for about 4 to 5 years now. Well, about 8 with GEHA, but we've got them for our board members as well. And what we've done is, as soon as we've found something that we use with Thriveology, knowing that we don't have a state license and then they'll accept our own education as a credential that qualifies, we post it on the member benefits and resources page. So if you're new to this, you don't have to go try to figure out, where do I buy supplements? Where do I get devices? What are the devices? What is the equipment? Where do I get post-education? We have been gathering this for 5 years now. And in addition to the beautiful certificate, you're going to have a full range of member benefits that you can immediately contact people and help you get your practice going.
Awesome. I admittedly, it's not that obviously I was listening, but I was typing out stuff, so it's hard to listen and type.
Yes.
Heather had asked at the same time as I was typing this stuff out so people could QR code it or type it in, what is the cost of insurance? Was that cost that you listed of insurance or the license?
No, so GEHA is not insurance, and we don't provide insurance. We pre-negotiated rates with Locked In Affinity. So what we've done is said, hi, Locked In, with our vetting process, when we send to you one of our licensed practitioners, will you provide them a policy? Yes. So once they understood how we vetted, then we were able to pre-negotiate those rates. Now, the cost obviously is going to be based on your specific needs and the aggregate that you choose. There's anywhere from $1 million to $4 million in an aggregate for insurance, but the cost that is the range is anywhere from about $75 to $400 a year. So annually, to protect you, which is very important, as you know, kind of like a driver's license. You have a driver's license and you have insurance. It's the same thing here. You need the license to give you your ability to do what you want to do and how you want to do it within a scope, what you can say, what you can't say, what you can do, what you can't do, so that your clients understand that you know that, and so do they. But then you need to ensure that as well.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And Heather, if I don't know if you are an FTN, Heather, I'm sorry if you are, but if maybe you're one in training or considering one, once you're done, we have a whole page of insurance stuff that we help you with. And actually, knowing what I know now, I'm like, oh, this is connected here. So I know that the rates I've seen as little as $150 a year, not a month. To I think the highest I ever heard was $400 a year.
Yep,
so
that's exactly what I've heard.
Yeah, totally worth it, especially considering we haven't had any issues yet. And that's what's smart, right? Do it before.
Yes, but remember, insurance, yes, have it. But if you don't have a driver's license and you get pulled over by a policeman, it doesn't matter that you've got insurance. You still have no permission to drive your car. So just make sure, even though insurance is really important, really consider the license, because that's what gives you the legal permission to offer the services that you're insuring.
Thank you. Well, and that kind of leads me to think about, like, all right, maybe some health coaches are making some mistakes out there. So can I ask, what are some of the most common mistakes that you're seeing health practitioners or coaches make with this stuff? And guys, this is not to scare the crap out of any of you. It's to educate, right? No, you're good right now. Everything's fine. Take the advice and act on it, whatever it might be.
Yeah, great question. And mistakes are not necessarily doing anything wrong. I mean, to me, it's a learning opportunity, because if you don't know, you don't know until you know. So I've been in the space for a long time. I've been in business for over 30 years, and I've been operating a clinic with my husband for over 10. I've been in the business space for 25. So it was a really kind of unique insight for me to be able to put together the business resources, because I was a practitioner inside our clinic. I was the administrator inside our clinic, but I was also a practitioner on the mindset side. I did neck up and my husband did neck down. So I had all the unique sides of being able to put together these resources, as well as being in business. So I think probably the biggest mistake or idea that people have when they get done with education is that these clients are just going to flock. Like they're just going to, I'm done with my education. Okay, I'm just going to let people know that this is what I do, and people are just going to flock. So it really doesn't happen like that. You're going to definitely have to promote yourself, but don't get stuck in the, oh, people aren't calling me, so I probably should go back to school and get more education. And maybe I should get another acronym, or, you know, maybe I need to learn more. I don't know enough. So that failure to launch plays heavy. I work with people all over the country, and I do my own mentoring with people, and I talk to people about this all the time. And they just didn't expect that when they were done that they weren't going to have business. But business, if you're going to run a business, has to be run like a business. And there are some very good principles and best practices to doing that. So make sure you understand your state laws. Make sure that you understand everything you can and can't do, even outside of a GEHA scope. You get a GEHA scope, but that doesn't mean your state law lets you call yourself a naturopath. Like, for example, in the state of Florida, it is illegal to practice naturopathy with or without a state license. Illegal. So my husband has an ND, but we don't use it in the state of Florida. South Carolina, Tennessee are the same. Those are the 3 states that it's illegal. So just know your state laws, because if you don't, and you just assume that you can just do whatever you want because, gosh, I was just helping people poop better, that it doesn't matter. You really have to understand what is going on in your state and what you can do with that legal scope of license. So make sure that you really, really understand that well. I would say another thing people do is they put on their white lab coat with their stethoscope and take a picture. And I would say, don't do that. There's absolutely no reason to not stand really great in your lane and be proud. My husband and I are a mile from the beach. We wear shorts to our clinic. And it's not about wearing the lab coat, because frankly, the lab coat is already misleading people. There's no reason, if you're not a medical doctor, to wear a lab coat. So just show up in your lane really proud and help people. But before you show up to help people, do everything necessary to run your business, because really you are an entrepreneur. You're not working as in a clinic or in a hospital. So just kind of learn a little bit more about how to run your business. And then really, I think another thing that people miss is the money mindset. Because a lot of people don't even know to look into their money mindset. Because really, when you think about what we learned in school, whether it be elementary school, high school, college, post-education, certificates, does anybody talk about money mindset? Not really. And when you start digging deep in a money mindset, even with your spouse, your significant other, and you start to realize, oh my gosh, you mean you guys pinched every penny and never went out for ice cream? Or you mean you guys spent every dime and you never did? So when you think about money mindset, as soon as I started looking into that and really understanding what that meant for me to grow as a human, a person, as a business owner, it helped. One of the biggest books that helped me was by Ken Honda, called Happy Money. It's about arigato. So you're spending it, arigato, thank you. You're receiving it, arigato. In and out, the flow of money. You're just as happy to give it as you are to receive it. And as soon as you start realizing that and understand the real true energy and frequency of money and how it flows, money just makes you more of who you already are. Mm-hmm. So if you're a giving, loving servant leader, it's going to give you the ability to do more of that. So kind of learn a little bit about the money mindset, because it plays a big part of how you're going to run your business and how successful your business is going to be.
Yeah. So I know I said questions at the end, but this is another one that's actually relevant to right now. And if you can't answer this, totally okay.
No, go right ahead.
Elle had asked, does all of this apply if you are an FDNP residing in Canada, or is it only for US? Like, are you familiar with the Canadian laws?
Yeah, really great question, because I work with FDN so much. So GEHA is governed by the US Constitution. So GEHA is only in the USA. Now, board certification is international. So you can become board certified anywhere in the world. And we've got schools and board certified members all over the world. So you can board certify, but no, I'm sorry, if you're not a USA citizen without a USA address, you cannot be licensed by GEHA.
Okay, and I wanted to talk more about business stuff, so this is another good one. Let me finally get this word. When we use the word ecclesiastical, there we go, are they explicitly Christian, someone asked?
Yes. And I would say on that, don't get so caught up in that. I talk to people about this all the time, because the way we have written up our life care agreement, it is so slick that when we train people how to utilize this, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's Christian, I don't want to talk about it, nobody wants to sign it. That's not true. We've been ecclesiastical practitioners for 10 years, and we've had 2 people in our entire 10 years of thousands of people sign our life care agreement. So it's all about delivery. It's all about the way that you receive and return the message by telling someone what it is and what it isn't. But the best way to do that is to utilize our training. And in our training, which once you become a practitioner, you'll get the slideshow training for that. We just say, send this email. We've beta tested language. We did that for a year on highest compliance. The highest compliance was saying to someone, please sign our life care agreement, our compliance agreement. People are used to signing a compliance agreement because they're used to HIPAA. So we just say, sign our compliance agreement. They click the button. It leads them to the individual profile compliance agreement for you, the individual practitioner, which every single individual member has their own link. They fill in the information, they submit, it's done. They read as much as they want. We have an at a glance if they just want a high level, or if they want to read all 7 pages, they can. But what that does for you, the practitioner or coach, it gets that out of the way prior to them having their consult with you. Because if they start asking the question at the time of the appointment and they start digging the hole and you dig it deeper, you'll spend 20 minutes trying to explain exactly what it is and probably not do it very well because it's not easy to explain. Still to this day, it's not easy to explain. But it is easy to explain when someone can sit in front of their computer and they can read it on their own. They can digest it on their own. They can read as much or as little as they want. So yes, to answer the question, 100% it's Christian, but that's why it works. That's why you have a license, is because we're utilizing religion within our private membership association. So you can speak words from the Bible. So that's why and how the license is conducted and why it's legal, because religion is involved in that. Now, people ask me, do you have to be a Christian to do it? Do you have to be a Christian to sign it? To be a part of our GEHA organization, you have to agree to our 7 fundamentals, and you can read them. You get to determine that. We're providing the service. You get to determine how or where that religion fits for you.
Well, yeah, and for whatever it's worth to people, because I'll always be transparent. In fact, I'm happy to share this because I'm a born again Christian as of 2 years ago. But Reed, I don't know that he identifies as a Christian at all. I know his wife does, but I don't think he does. So that just goes to show, obviously, you could use this without being a part of that. That's totally fine. I want to transition a little bit. And if you guys have more questions about this, thank you so much for participating. Feel free to drop it below. I want to transition a little bit to kind of squeeze some of your business expertise out of this conversation, because you've been doing this for a while. And when I looked up Thriveology, I'm one of the rare FDNs that has an in-person business as well with my wife. And I looked at your stuff and I saw that you had perfect 5-star review for like 60 something ratings, which
69 stars, 5 stars.
That's very tough.
Thank
so
you.
I obviously know a thing or two. So what are some tools that might help like a practitioner or coach, especially if they're new, help grow their business? Because like we get the smartest people in the world sometimes coming through FDN. They know all the stuff, and then business, they're like, oh no. So what are some tools that might help?
It's so true. And it's probably 9 out of 10 people that as soon as they realize they've got to run a business, oh crud, I'm an entrepreneur now. Didn't expect that.
Yep.
So yes, 100%. So I utilize every guerrilla marketing tactic and tool there is. And guerrilla marketing, if you're not familiar with it, is basically just doing marketing without a dollar. Like you're just doing marketing as free and inexpensive as possible. Most everything that I promote and teach people is all for free. So if you can figure out the guerrilla marketing strategies that are for free and implement those, as in Google reviews, as I've mentioned, that's where we get our biggest amount of leads other than referrals. I mean, obviously referrals are the way in the light. But in addition, if someone goes to the Google directory and they see that you've got 69, maybe 70, I think now, 5-star reviews, and they can read through those and the next people down maybe have 20 or 5 or whatever it is, I would say 6 out of 10 people, when I ask them immediately, because I'm the first point of contact at our clinic when the phone rings, and I say immediately, oh my gosh, hi, how did you find us? Oh my gosh, I read your reviews on Google. They're unbelievable. Or I heard it from my friend Nancy, who said, you guys just changed her life. So when you think about the good services that you provide, how can you provide those good services to get those 5-star reviews if you don't even think of yourself as a business person? So maybe you think about it, but what do you do? Because there's thinking, there's talking, and there's doing. I'm providing the doing in a very specific order for people so that they're not spending all the time and money and energy doing things that don't matter, or not doing anything at all because they just don't know what to do. So the first thing for me would be a web presence. I've been promoting websites and building websites and doing tech my entire adult life. Now I'm 55 years old. So I came from Gen X, which meant, we just picked up a phone and it had a cord and we were like, hi, and our moms answered the phone, and it wasn't. I am telling you from my perspective as a Gen Xer learning this stuff, most people have still not learned this stuff. They still have not taken the time to learn tech. And I hear it, oh my gosh, I would say 6 out of 7, 8 out of 10 people every day. Oh, I'm just not very tech savvy. Well, that's too bad, because you're not going to be able to do as well with your business and helping people with this amazing education that you have if you don't learn a little bit about tech. And really, fortunately, there is nothing you can't learn now for free.
Yeah.
You can go to Google and learn anything you want for free. So if you're saying, I don't know tech, well, then you're just choosing not to know it, because it's out there and you can learn anything you want. I taught myself every single thing that I know, because in 1991, when I graduated from college, we didn't even have a computer in our dorm. So we learned all that stuff and had to on our own. So you still have time. You can learn how to build a website. But what I will tell you, because this has been such a problem, when I talk with people not understanding tech, I built a platform called mywellnesswebsite.com. And what I did was I built about 30 templates. They all have everything related to wellness, the legal terms, the disclaimer, the privacy policy, the terms and conditions, because I can't tell you how many times I audit websites and they don't even have those things. Well, I mean, you've got to have those things. So I've already written all the language. I've already done everything for a wellness professional to spend $30 a month with a fully designed, hosted platform that gives you a calendar, a store, CRM, SEO, every single thing built in. Now, that may not mean a lot to you if you don't know a lot about that stuff, because you're thinking, I don't even know what that stuff is. So why is it so cool? I'm telling you that if you have a website and you haven't optimized it, it's like writing a radio ad and not putting it on the radio. Ain't nobody going to hear it. So if you have a website, wonderful. But if you have not uploaded your Google Analytics and you don't have it in a Google Search Console to be able to index your keywords on your pages, nobody will find your website unless they have your URL. So don't think if you have a website and don't be asking the question, I can't believe nobody ever finds me. No, they're never going to find you. They will never find you based on a search if you don't do what's necessary behind the scenes. So I teach people how to build their website, how to design their website. All of that's done through My Wellness Website now. Thankfully, I'm not really doing that for people anymore because it's a DIY platform. And part of that comes with SEO. So you can be optimized in the background as easy as possible. Now, back to the Google reviews. I am picky about the Google reviews because you don't want to just ask everyone. You need to really think about who you're asking, because if you just send out an anonymous big blast email to everybody you've ever worked with and you forgot that Nancy was really mad at you 6 years ago and said nasty stuff about something that she misconstrued, whatever, you want to be very particular and look through your list. Now, one of the platforms I've used for that to really help you trickle this out is grade.us. Now, I'm not an affiliate for any of these. I'm just giving these out to you because I've learned the best and easiest ways to do it. Now, grade.us is helpful because if you are optimizing your website and you've got specific keywords on your website and you're sending out emails to people, let's say 500, and let's say 200 people go out in one day and they all leave you a Google review, based on that algorithm, Google is going to shut you down.
Yep.
You cannot have all these reviews posted at the same time. So what grade.us does without you having to have the knowledge is you upload your list and it does a trickle email campaign where it sends out 10 in this day. And then it lets you know that, oh, look, somebody did post for you. And then 3 days later, it sends a reminder to those 10 people. And then in 10 days, it sends another new email to about 20 more people. So what it does is it's based on a white hat Google strategy where everything's done in the way the algorithm will allow it. So Google won't shut you down. Yep. So go to grade.us, check it out. The strategy I use is I pay for the subscription for 1 month. I utilize it with all the emails in my contact list, and then I cancel it. There's literally no reason to continue to pay for that subscription if you're not going to be sending out an email every single time someone new comes in. So I'm sure you all have a lot of lists already, a lot of people that you could send this to. Be strategic. Look at those people, create an email list. And if it's a big enough email list, then you'll want to use a grade.us. If it's not, and you've got 30, 40 people, just divide that out. In 1 week, send it to 10, and another week, send it to another. That is the strategy really for getting the highest level of Google reviews. But before you even do that, you have to go to Google My Business and set up your business. Yeah. So go to Google My Business and do that part first so that you actually have the ability to show up there.
And guys, you do not, I hope if you listen to nothing else today, I mean, you really should listen to the license part too, but if you listen to nothing else today in terms of how to grow the business, at least, please rewind and then go do that, because people don't even know that most of our practitioners work online, right? I'm one of the rare ones that has an in-person thing. And we do most of our other stuff online though. You can have this Google business thing without being in person. You just have to have the address associated with it.
Right.
So you have to have
It
that
didn't
anyway.
used to be that way, Evan. I'm so glad you're pointing that out, because it didn't used to give you the ability to do that virtually. That's new. So you're exactly right. Yep.
Yes. And so that means people could be looking you up as a practitioner, like XYZ Joe Schmo practitioner, FDN practitioner, and it comes up with Google reviews, which it's always great to have testimonials and reviews on your website, no doubt. But obviously the Google thing does something more. And, my wife, my now wife, it's really cool. So in terms of the business and like how it grew, we kind of started dating at the same exact time it opened, Nicole. And we went from girlfriend and boyfriend to engaged to husband and wife with
Awesome.
this. And she wasn't huge into business stuff before. So she's been so open to like learning these things, and she became an FDN. So it's been amazing. But the relevance of me mentioning that is, at first, because I grew up in business. My parents owned a restaurant. My dad owned a landscaping thing, all very small businesses too. So I learned a lot about local and how to treat people, right? And so at first I was like, babe, just give them a week for free of services if they leave a review. And they've been there for like, a month or two. They actually like it. She's like, a week for free? We can't do that. I'm like, no. I'd give them more if I needed to. Like, I just don't even need to give them more to get them to leave the review. I'm like, I'd give them a month for free because it was worth that much. I knew that these reviews were worth that much. So just to be clear, a week free of services was anywhere between 40 to $100 for what we're offering. I'm like, totally worth it. Get those people leaving the review. And, when you have your first 5, it's probably not going to change anything. I noticed stuff once we got over like 15, 20,
Yep.
it's like the searches are getting better.
Yep.
You're popping up more. Like, people are calling, like you just said, specifically because they saw about the experiences that people had on Google. So you can do that without being in person, and it's free. It's a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer.
Yeah. Well, and I so agree with being able to set that up for free for your virtual practice. But you think about testimonials; they're wonderful, but they've got to find your website to see them.
Yes.
In this particular case, they're finding you on a review that somebody left, third party. You didn't post it; someone else had to post it. It had to be authenticated long before they found your website. So wonderful that there's a testimony on your website, but they had to already be on your website, so they already know about you. This is a great way, kind of almost as a search engine tool, to be found on the Google directory, whether you've optimized your website or not, because you're going to be found based on the reviews. So it's important to optimize your site, but why not utilize something that really, to me, is equal with referrals and gets us as much or more business than referrals, and it's free. So if you're looking for leads, that's definitely the way to go. The other tool that I use a lot is Canva. I think it's amazing. If you haven't used it, try it out. It's super cheap. I use it all day, every day for every single thing that I do in terms of relation to graphics and anything related to content. AI, I know a lot of people are scared of AI. Don't be scared of AI. It's amazing. I cannot tell you how much AI has changed business. And I don't mean business like taking away a job. I mean like the person doing the job learned it and did their job better, faster, and more productive. So if you're scared of AI, which it's the first question I get, which I'm like, why are you scared? Did someone tell you to be scared, or did you hear that you should be scared? Because frankly, being scared is just something that someone else put off on you. If you try it yourself, you'll see that there's no reason to be scared. So I would say look into AI. That's huge. And then the last thing really in terms of tools is knowing what to say when someone contacts you. This is such a huge thing. I have so many people ask me, well, I don't really even know what to say. I don't know how much to charge. I don't even know how to introduce myself. I don't really know what the fees are. I'm kind of afraid when someone asks me that, like maybe in public or on the phone. And if you don't have a very specific way of defining what you do with confidence in that very, very moment, people are not going to believe you. And the last thing you want to do is show up in a space where you're literally on the phone with someone, you've got them, and you can't close them and get the appointment because you don't know. You don't know how to say it. You don't know what you're charging. You feel bad about it. Oh, I can reduce that. And you're apologizing before you ever even really get them to agree or not agree. So just if you don't know and haven't used the phone, I know there's still a lot of people that use the phone. We use the phone at Thriveology too. I don't use the phone for other businesses, but for a business like Thriveology, for a clinic offering wellness services, the phone is where you're probably going to meet up a lot. Learn phone skills, learn sales techniques, learn closing, learn how to introduce yourself, learn all those things that make you someone that when they hang up the phone, they're like, oh my gosh, that is the person I want to work with. And I'm so excited about that, because if you don't get them excited, then they're not going to be. So be really confident. And if you're not, learn to be, because I don't care how good of a practitioner you are. You could be the best, most educated practitioner ever. But if you cannot talk on the phone and you cannot let someone know what you do and how much it costs with absolute confidence, you will never, ever have a full calendar. So that's really, really important. I know that sounds ridiculous because it's kind of like, oh, it's little, but it's really pretty big based on the people that I'm talking to.
Absolutely. We got several minutes left. I want to ask one more thing before we hop off today. Great podcast, by the way. I love your energy. And it's like,
Thank
it's so,
you.
I think what the world needs more of is people who are passionate about these very, I wouldn't say this is niche in the sense that, like, obviously there's many people that are involved in this type of stuff, but for you to bring your energy into something that it's like, even for me, who gets excited about very nerdy things, is like, bro, like the legal side of this, like, that's what we need, though. We need people like you that, like, no, I do get excited by this and I like it. But I wanted to talk also about, you mentioned this guerrilla marketing stuff. So I think what's good about that is I like paid traffic. I'm like a digital marketing nerd, but I like the paid because I learned the other stuff very well. And now I can go on and not piss away my life savings online. It's very easy to do that with paid traffic. And no one would deny, paid traffic or not, that if I can get the lead for free, that's obviously a winner. So what are some tools and techniques for brand new practitioners out there to be able to get some warm leads for free without having to spend a bunch of money?
Well, that's why SEO is built into my wellness website, because that's organic. And yeah, paid advertising is amazing. I've done it too. But once you stop advertising it for whatever reason, you're done. You're gone. You're no longer on page 1, third position, or whatever it is. So if you don't have a big budget to do paid advertising, which I love to, I love all the sponsorships and the ways of doing that and the strategies behind it. But if you don't have a big budget to do that, then it makes the most sense to optimize your site organically. So you're found organically, meaning it moves up the scale based on your keywords. Most people that don't know about my wellness website, they build a website, maybe on a Wix or a Weebly or a Squarespace or maybe even a WordPress, and they don't necessarily even know what to do. I have audited hundreds of websites, and these people have said to me, when I ask them, are you optimizing? Are you utilizing SEO? Oh, yes, my web developer is doing that. Oh, okay. Well, is it okay if I audit just to see how it's going? Yes. Give me your login credentials for an admin access. Okay. So I get in, and 100% of the time, it is never optimized. 100% of the time. And I'm not exaggerating that. So these poor people are being told by someone that it's being optimized, and they're not, because really, when you think about website back end, it is still a dark art. Nobody's logging into the back end of their website because, frankly, the web developers are saying, oh, don't log in and mess anything up, or you're just going to have to pay me to fix it. All these people that I work with have been, the fear of God has been put in them to not log into the back end or their admin side. So they're emailing their web developer and saying, can you add a comma to maybe to the middle of sentence 3 on the about page? And then they're being charged $75 to make the change. And it takes a week or 2 to do it. It's so ridiculous. So I've been developing websites and consulting the website space on behalf of the business owner for over 20 years. And man, have things changed. But the great part now is that there are platforms like My Wellness Website that you don't have to hire someone just to do SEO. You don't have to hire someone just to do graphic. You don't have to hire someone just to do development. You don't have to hire someone just to do content. It's all there. So all you do is go in, look at the templates, all done. 30 of them I've built out, and you choose one, you trial it, you build it out. You don't have to pay for it until you build it out. Everything's done for you. But the search engine optimization component of that is built in. So based on what Evan's talking about, great, have a beautiful website, but optimize it. And it's so easy to optimize it because everything is built into this platform.
Yeah, it's like, this is like, the funny part about business is you can tell the people that they never partnered or hired out for the things that they're weak on, because you'll have like the best looking websites and there's no traffic to it and they have no sales. And you have these like piece of crap 1960s, 70s. Okay, 60s was a little ridiculous. Let's say the time the internet started websites, and they're selling like crazy though. Now, ideally, both would be amazing. And I just looked at this. This looks fantastic. Your templates are awesome. So really cool stuff. I put that in the chat here for people that are live. And then, of course, we'll have that in the show notes. So, Nicole, I normally finish off the show by asking what's the number one health tip. I could ask you that, but we're on business. So I'll throw it to that. If you could only do one thing for every health practitioner's business that's watching this or will watch this, what is the one thing you'd get them to do or not do? It could be either.
Yeah, great question. My number one thing and word is launch. Launch. It's not perfect. It's not going to ever be perfect. And if you're waiting to have enough knowledge, enough of anything, you will never launch. My husband, Stacy, and I learned as much post-grad during our Thriveology days as we learned in our schooling. So you will never know enough because you'll never think you do, because that's what you do. You're educated in a specific area that you're never going to know it all. And you're going to continue to learn on a daily basis. So launch and continue to learn after you launch. But some of what we learned was after we launched, as we worked with people through the experience of working with people, because you really don't know what's going to come up. You really don't know how it's going to be asked. You don't know what the questions are going to be, how someone's going to receive you, how you should adjust and alter and be flexible in terms of all the things that you're doing, both from the clinical side and the business side. So just launch, because you really can't do much with your education if you don't launch.
Nicole, thank you so much. Guys, let us know in the chat if you'd like her back. I feel like we could do a lot of different things here, so I know I'd like her back. So even if you're watching this afterwards, of course, I'll get to the comments later, so let me know. Nicole, thanks so much for coming on today. You guys have no idea what she just did with us with the flip-flop because of my scheduling, so we just appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me.